It's now time to do a little bit of assessing of the work that we've made to date during our time in The Secret of Drawing. So there are two solo rubrics that your work is going to be, or that you're going to assess your work against. The first one is around PK, or called a PK solo rubric, and that's around the practical knowledge, essentially how well you can make a drawing. The second one is around communicating and interpreting. So it's about communicating and interpreting your ideas and others' ideas in and around their work. We're going to talk a little bit more about this one in another little video, but for now let's just go back and get into the practical knowledge solo rubric. So getting right on into it, the descriptor comes straight from the national curriculum, and it's broken into two parts. The first part is you need to explore and use art-making conventions, and art-making conventions is basically just how artworks are made. And then you need to apply knowledge of elements and selected principles, types of objects and arrangement of those objects through the use of materials and processes. So that's just a bit of a long-winded way of talking about the elements and principles of art that you were considering when you were making your works. So let's have a look at the first part of it. Exploring and using art-making conventions. So the big art-making convention that we're using was drawing. We had a look at two elements that make up that art-making convention of drawing. We had a look at some observational drawing, observational pencil drawing, charcoal and mixed media works that we made. We had a wee look at an artist model, a guy called Jim Dine, and his tools, and we used him as a little bit of an influence. We also then branched off and we had a little bit of a look at a more expressive, more gestural drawing using pencil, ink and charcoal, and a little bit of paint towards the end. And we combined all of those different ways of working into a couple of pieces where we brought them all together, those different media. So you'll notice here, if we have a look, I can apply art-making conventions through exploration. If I'm prompted or directed, I can use several strategies, and so on and so on. And then up for extended abstract, it's about how you may be a role model for others, and that you can maybe teach others, whether that just be through people watching what you do and maybe copying and imitating, or whether it is about you can directly tell and help and teach people. So there's a little spot in this assessment rubric which you're going to get an opportunity to fill out tomorrow, where you can list some of those conventions. For the last two, you see, you need to be able to look to make some connections between those two. So there may have been reasons why you chose those different conventions to put together. And then moving on down, we have the applying knowledge of elements and selected principles. So in the Google Classroom, there was a couple of little posts where there was a couple of little playlists, one on the principles of art and design and one on the elements of art and design. You all have had opportunity to watch those. If you haven't watched them, you'll need to do that in the next day or so. So that you can get an understanding of all of the different elements of art. So if we go back, you'll notice some of them are written down here: space, line, shape, form, texture, colour, value, balance, harmony, emphasis, rhythm, variety, proportion. And what was really pleasing for me was that in our little critiquing sessions, a lot of you were actually maybe not aware, but you're actually using a lot of these words and you are understanding the concepts. You may just have found that the word to describe or to name what you were talking about might not have been quite clear in your head. So hopefully those little videos have helped you out with that. And the idea is that you can then list some of those elements and stuff that you understand and how they maybe connect to each other as well. So when it comes to the assessing part, we're going to do a little bit of a self-assessment. You'll then share it with a peer, and then they'll do a peer assessment of your work, and then there'll be a bit of a teacher judgment at the end. So that's it for PK, and we will stay tuned and watch the next little clip around communicating and interpreting ideas.